In the vast darkness of space, the crystalline spires of Orion Intermediary Station glittered like frozen tears against the backdrop of stars. Ambassador Lyra gazed through the panoramic viewport, her partially photosynthetic skin dimming in response to her melancholy. The year 527 of the Galactic Era had begun with whispers of unrest, but no one in the Astronomical Council had anticipated what would follow. Lyra's form, a unique blend of plant-like and humanoid features, stood out among the delegates gathered in the Council's Grand Hall. Chlorophyll-infused tendrils flowed down her back like hair, while her amber eyes surveyed the chamber with the practiced patience of a diplomat who had seen centuries pass. As the representative of the Xerion Alliance, a confederation of worlds on the galaxy's edge, she had grown accustomed to being overlooked by the greater powers. "Ambassador, they're ready to begin," murmured Commander Voth, his exoskeletal form towering beside her. His carapace, evolved on the harshest terrain of Xerion Prime, bore the decorative etchings of his military rank, each groove representing a campaign fought in service to their people. "Let them wait another moment," Lyra replied, her voice carrying the musical quality unique to her species. "The Council has kept us waiting for decades. They can grant us a few more minutes." The Astronomical Council chambers, designed to intimidate with their soaring ceilings and imposing architecture, housed representatives from the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. Aquarian diplomats floated in their water-filled environmental suits, while the machine intelligences of the Makari delegation occupied sleek, humanoid frames that clicked and whirred with calculations. The ethereal Sylphi, barely visible except for the shimmering distortion of light around their presence, occupied the highest tier of seats. Counselor Zareth of the Makari stood, his metallic voice projecting throughout the chamber. "This emergency session of the Astronomical Council is now in session. We recognize Ambassador Lyra of the Xerion Alliance." Lyra moved to the central platform, her steps deliberate and measured. The gravity felt slightly heavier than she was accustomed to, a subtle reminder that even the environmental controls of the chamber were calibrated for the comfort of the powerful. "Esteemed members of the Council," she began, her voice stronger than she felt. "3 worlds of the Xerion Alliance have fallen silent in the past standard month. Before communications ceased, we received desperate pleas for surrender from each. They begged for mercy from an unknown force identifying themselves only as the Black Blood Riders." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. "Our preliminary scans indicate a fleet of unidentified vessels moving through the outer systems at speeds exceeding our fastest interceptors." Lyra continued, activating the holographic display. "They leave nothing behind but debris and radiation. I come before you today to formally request Council intervention under the Mutual Defense Clause of the Galactic Charter." Counselor Zareth's optical sensors narrowed. "The Xerion Alliance is not a full signatory to the Charter, merely an associated territory. The Defense Clause does not strictly apply." 3 billion souls have already perished," Commander Voth interjected, his mandibles clicking in agitation. "Must we negotiate semantics while more die?" The Aquarian representative, Delphine, her bluish features distorted through the water of her environmental suit, raised a webbed hand. "The resources required to mount a defense of the Xerion sector would be substantial. Our projections indicate a low probability of success given the speed and apparent technological advantage of these Black Blood Riders." Lyra felt her photoreceptive cells darken in frustration. "So the Council will do nothing? Watch as an entire sector falls?" "We will observe and gather intelligence," replied the Sylphi representative, its voice a whisper that somehow carried to every corner of the chamber. "Direct intervention without sufficient information would be imprudent." "Imprudent?" Vath's exoskeleton trembled with barely contained rage. "Your prudence condemns millions more to death." The debate continued for hours, circling the same points without resolution. The Council, comfortable in their security, saw no reason to risk their fleets for worlds on the galaxy's periphery. Lyra felt the familiar weight of disappointment settling on her shoulders. The Xerion Alliance had always been too small, too resource-poor to command respect. As the session neared its conclusion, an alert chimed through the chamber. The central holographic display flickered, then resolved into an unfamiliar signal pattern. "We are receiving a transmission," announced the Matari coordinator. "Origin unknown. Encryption patterns not in our database." "Display it," ordered Counselor Zareth, his metallic features betraying a hint of concern. The hologram shifted, displaying a humanoid figure in a form-fitting dark uniform. The being appeared unnervingly similar to several known species, yet somehow distinct, heavier set, with a density to their frame that suggested evolution in high-gravity conditions. "This is Admiral Stone of the Earth Federation Deathworlder Fleet," the figure announced without preamble. "We have intercepted distress signals from the Zirion sector and detected large-scale hostile action. Be advised, we are en route to provide assistance. Our advanced scouts have already engaged enemy forces. We request any intelligence you can provide on the aggressors designated as Black Blood Riders." Shocked silence fell over the council chamber. "Earth," whispered Counselor Delphine. "I thought it was merely a legend, a high-gravity death world beyond the void expanse." "Deathworlders are real?" another delegate gasped. Lyra stepped forward, heart racing. "Admiral Stone, this is Ambassador Lyra of the Zirion Alliance. We welcome your assistance. Our forces are limited, but we will coordinate with your fleet." The Admiral nodded sharply. "Transmit tactical data to the coordinates embedded in this signal. We'll rendezvous at the Morrigan Belt in 48 standard hours. Stone out." The transmission ended, leaving the Council in chaos. "This is unprecedented," Zareth declared. "An unknown power with apparently significant military capability is entering Council space without authorization." "They're responding to a distress call that you ignored," Lyra countered. "And I, as representative of the Zirion Alliance, hereby grant them formal permission to enter our territory." "This council session is adjourned for emergency deliberations," announced the Sylphy representative, its form flickering with agitation. "Ambassador Lyra, Commander Voth, you will remain available for consultation." As the delegates dispersed in a flurry of urgent communications, Vath turned to Lyra, his compound eyes reflecting the stars beyond the viewport. "Deathworlders," he said, mandibles clicking thoughtfully. "Creatures evolved in gravity and atmospheric conditions that would crush most sentient life. I thought them merely stories to frighten young ones." "Stories often contain kernels of truth," Lyra replied, her tendrils shifting with renewed energy. "And right now, a story is our best hope." The following 48 hours passed in a blur of preparation. The Zirion Alliance mobilized what remained of its fleet. Aging cruisers and retrofitted cargo vessels pressed into military service. Resources were stretched thin, munitions counted and recounted, contingency plans drafted and revised. Lyra worked tirelessly, coordinating with planetary governors and military commanders. The Astronomical Council, after hours of debate, had issued a carefully worded statement expressing concerned neutrality regarding the situation. They would neither assist nor impede the Deathworlder intervention, a position that surprised no one. Commander Vath organized the defensive perimeter around the remaining Zirion worlds, positioning their limited forces to maximum effect. "We can't match them for firepower," he told his captains. "So we'll need to be smarter, more maneuverable, draw them into the asteroid fields where our smaller ships have the advantage." When word came that an advance vessel from the Deathworlder fleet had entered the Zirion system, Lyra and Voth hurried to the central command center. The ship appeared on their monitors, sleek and angular, with hull configurations unlike any they had seen before. "They're hailing us," reported the communications officer, her antennae twitching nervously. "On screen," ordered Voth. Admiral Stone appeared before them, now in what was clearly a military uniform. Behind her, a command bridge bustled with activity, crewed by beings of similar appearance but varying in coloration and physical characteristics. "Ambassador Lyra, Commander Voth." She greeted them with a curt nod. "Our main fleet will arrive within 6 hours. We've detected enemy formations gathering near the Morrigan Belt. They appear to be preparing for a major assault on your core worlds. Our forces are in position, Admiral. Vath responded. Though I must warn you, they are limited. The Xerion Alliance has been at peace for generations. Understood. We've analyzed your tactical data and integrated it into our battle plans. Stone's expression remained impassive, professional. I must inform you that we've issued a broad-spectrum warning to all vessels in the sector. Any ships not identified as friendly will be considered hostile. We recommend your allies withdraw to safe coordinates. Lyra stepped forward. Admiral, while we appreciate your assistance, I must ask, why would Earth intervene in a conflict so far from your territory? For the first time, Stone's expression softened slightly. We were like you once, Ambassador. A peripheral world, overlooked by greater powers. When we faced extinction, no one came. She paused. We swore that if we survived, we would not stand by while others suffered the same fate. The words hung in the air, charged with meaning. We'll rendezvous at the coordinates we've transmitted. Stone continued, her tone returning to crisp professionalism. Stone out. As the transmission ended, Vath turned to Lyra. Do you trust them? Lyra considered the question, her tendrils swaying thoughtfully. I don't know if trust is relevant anymore, Commander. We have no choice but to accept their help. The question is whether they can actually make a difference against a force that has already destroyed 3 of our worlds. We'll know soon enough, Vath replied grimly. The Morrigan Belt, a dense band of asteroids and debris at the edge of the Xerion system, had long served as a natural defensive barrier. Now it would become a battlefield. The remaining Xerion fleet took position among the larger asteroids, using the gravitational fields and radiation pockets to mask their signatures. 6 hours later, sensors detected multiple spatial distortions as the Deathworlder fleet arrived. Lyra and Vath, watching from the command vessel, caught their breath at the sight. Dozens of ships, ranging from nimble destroyers to massive carriers, emerged from what appeared to be self-generated wormholes, a technology far beyond Xerion capabilities. By the first light, whispered Vath, their mastery of space-time manipulation is centuries ahead of ours. Admiral Stone's flagship, identified as the EFS Invictus, moved to the center of the formation, coordinating the deployment of smaller vessels throughout the asteroid belt. Tactical communications flooded the Xerion command channels as the Deathworlders established contact with each allied ship, sharing encrypted frequency codes and battle plans. They're methodical, observed Lyra. Precise. This isn't their first conflict. Before further observations could be made, the sensors blared warning. A massive fleet was approaching from the outer system, black ships with crimson energy signatures moving in perfect formation. Black Blood Riders, confirmed the sensor officer. Over 200 vessels detected, including 3 Dreadnought-class ships. Admiral Stone's voice came through the command channel. All vessels, battle stations. Xerion forces will maintain defensive positions around the inner belt. Earth forces will engage in 3-dimensional formation beta. Remember your training, these G-forces won't kill you, but they might kill them. Lyra exchanged a puzzled glance with Vath at the strange reference, but there was no time to question it as the enemy fleet closed rapidly. The Black Blood Riders struck with overwhelming force, their leading vessels firing synchronized energy barrages that vaporized several asteroids and 2 Xerion patrol ships in the initial salvo. Their ships moved with unnatural coordination, suggesting either a hive mind or extremely advanced battle AI. All Xerion vessels, execute defensive pattern Sigma, ordered Vath, his exoskeleton clicking as he secured himself to the command station. Use the radiation pockets to disrupt their targeting systems. The battle erupted across the asteroid belt. Energy weapons slicing through the void as ships danced between massive rocks and debris fields. The Black Blood Riders pressed their advantage of numbers, trying to overwhelm the defensive positions with sheer firepower. Then the Deathworlders engaged. Lyra watched in astonishment as the Earth vessels executed maneuvers that should have torn them apart. They accelerated at rates that would have liquefied most known species, banking and rolling with impossible precision. Their smaller fighters dove directly toward enemy vessels, pulling away at the last possible moment while deploying what appeared to be gravitational disruptors. "What are they doing?" Lyra asked, watching as a squad of Earth fighters spiraled around a Rider cruiser. "I believe," Vath replied slowly, "they're implementing some form of orbital disruption tactic. They're altering the local gravitational fields around the enemy ships." Indeed, the Rider vessels caught in these maneuvers began to drift off course, their precision formations breaking down as they struggled against invisible forces pulling them in conflicting directions. Admiral Stone's voice cut through the tactical channel. "Commander Vath, concentrate your fire on grid sectors 7 through 12. We've disrupted their navigation systems, but the effect is temporary." Vath issued the orders, and the Xerion fleet responded, their energy weapons focusing on the disoriented enemy ships. Several Rider vessels erupted in silent explosions, their debris adding to the asteroid field's hazards. But the Black Blood Riders adapted quickly. Their dreadnoughts moved forward, deploying swarms of smaller attack craft that targeted the Earth fighters. The battle intensified, with losses mounting on both sides. A Xerion cruiser exploded to Lyra's right, the shockwave rocking their command vessel. "Hull breach on Deck 4, reported an officer. Emergency containment activated." Lyra grabbed a console as the artificial gravity fluctuated. "Can we maintain our position?" "Affirmative," Vath responded, his clawed appendages dancing across the tactical display. "But our shields are down to 30%. We can't sustain this level of assault much longer." On the main view screen, they watched as an Earth destroyer took a direct hit from a Rider dreadnought. Instead of exploding, the vessel spun with the impact, venting atmosphere but continuing to fire even as it tumbled. Its crew, somehow still functioning under conditions that would have incapacitated most species, managed to right their ship and re-engage. "Admiral Stone," Vath called over the command channel, "we're detecting a change in the enemy formation. They appear to be concentrating their forces for a push toward the inner system." "Confirmed," came Stone's terse reply. "All vessels, prepare for Phase 2, Xerion Command. Move your remaining ships to these coordinates. We're going to create a gravity well." The battle plan unfolded with terrifying efficiency. The Earth fleet repositioned, their largest vessels forming a triangular formation while smaller ships continued harassment tactics against the Rider fleet. The Xerion vessels, following Vath's commands, took positions at the periphery of the formation. "What exactly is a gravity well?" Lyra asked, studying the tactical display with concern. "I believe we're about to find out," Vath replied. The Earth ships activated what appeared to be massive projectors on their ventral hulls, generating intersecting beams of coherent energy at a focal point directly in the path of the advancing Rider fleet. Space itself seemed to distort around that point, light bending visibly even on the sensor displays. "By the Cosmic Mother," gasped Lyra, "they're manipulating space-time on a massive scale." The effect was immediate and devastating. The leading edge of the Rider fleet, caught unprepared, was pulled toward the artificial gravity well. Ships collided with one another, their formation collapsing into chaos. The smaller vessels were crushed by the intensified gravitational forces, while the larger ships struggled to escape the effect, their engines flaring desperately. "All Xerion vessels, target the Dreadnought's propulsion systems," ordered Vath, seizing the opportunity. "Concentrate all firepower." The combined assault struck the Rider dreadnoughts as they fought against the gravity well, one by one. Their engines failed, leaving them drifting helplessly toward the crushing gravitational forces. "Admiral Stone," Vath called, "the enemy flagship is attempting to open an escape vector at coordinates 47 Mark 23. "Intercepting," Stone replied. The Invictus broke formation, accelerating at a rate that would have killed any Xerion crew instantly. The massive Earth flagship rotated on its axis while maintaining its forward momentum, bringing its main batteries to bear on the fleeing Rider vessel. The barrage that followed tore through the enemy ship's defenses, reducing it to expanding debris in seconds. Throughout the asteroid field, the remaining Rider vessels began to scatter, their coordinated attack dissolving into individual attempts at escape, Several managed to jump to faster-than-light travel, disappearing from sensors, but the majority were either destroyed or disabled. As the gravity well dissipated, an eerie silence fell over the battlefield. The debris of hundreds of ships drifted among the asteroids, punctuated by the emergency beacons of damaged vessels from both Allied fleets. "Status report," Vath demanded, his exoskeleton showing stress fractures from the battle's intensity. 47% of our fleet is either destroyed or severely damaged, reported the tactical officer. Life support failing on multiple vessels. Casualty reports still coming in. Lyra looked at the devastation displayed on the view screen, her photoreceptors dimming with grief. So much loss. But we held, Vath said quietly. The core worlds are safe. Admiral Stone's image appeared on the communication screen, her uniform scorched and a cut visible above her eye. Behind her, the Invictus's bridge showed signs of damage, with emergency lighting casting harsh shadows. "Commander Voth, Ambassador Lyra," she acknowledged. "The enemy fleet is in full retreat. We're tracking the escapees, but our priority now is rescue and recovery." "Admiral," Lyra responded, "your intervention saved the Xerion Alliance. We are in your debt." Stone shook her head slightly. "No debt is necessary, Ambassador. We're dispatching medical ships and repair crews to assist your damaged vessels. Our technology may be compatible enough to effect emergency repairs." "Your people," Vath said hesitantly. "The maneuvers they executed. The gravitational forces alone should have been fatal." A small smile crossed Stone's face. "Earth gravity is approximately 3 times what most humanoid species consider standard. We evolved under constant pressure. Commander, our bodies are denser, our cardiovascular systems more robust. What would crush you merely challenges us." "Deathworlders," Lyra murmured. "The name makes more sense now. It's what others called us when they discovered our world." Stone replied, "We've come to embrace it. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to coordinate our recovery efforts." Stone out. In the days that followed, the true nature of the Deathworlders became apparent. Earth medical teams boarded damaged Xerion vessels, working tirelessly in environments that their hosts considered barely habitable. They moved with startling strength, lifting debris that would require mechanical assistance for most species, and demonstrated remarkable resistance to radiation and toxic atmospheres. Lyra, coordinating relief efforts from the main command center, watched in amazement as Earth engineers repaired Xerion technology with innovative adaptations of their own systems. Where Xerion ships used crystalline power matrices, the humans implemented temporary conversions to their own fusion-based systems, restoring functionality to vessels that would otherwise have been lost. "They're extraordinary," Lyra commented to Vath as they observed an Earth repair team reconstructing a damaged life support system. "Not just their physical capabilities, but their adaptability. And their tactical thinking," added Vath, his compound eyes fixed on a holographic replay of the battle. "That gravity well strategy, creating a weapon from the fabric of space itself. We would never have conceived of such an approach." A communication alert sounded, and Admiral Stone's image appeared on the main screen. "Ambassador, Commander, we've completed analysis of the captured Rider vessels and decoded their command protocols." "What have you discovered?" asked Lyra, stepping closer to the display. "The Black Blood Riders are mercenaries," Stone explained, "hired by a consortium of weapons manufacturers from the core systems. They were testing new technologies and tactics against what they considered peripheral worlds unlikely to receive Council protection." Vath's mandibles clicked angrily. "They slaughtered billions as a weapons test?" "Essentially, yes," Stone confirmed grimly. "We've traced financial transactions through their command ship's database. Several prominent corporations represented on the Astronomical Council funded the operation through shell entities." Lyra felt her photosynthetic processes falter with shock. "The Council itself was complicit?" "Not officially," Stone clarified, "but certain influential members certainly were. We've compiled the evidence and transmitted it to our diplomatic corps. They're preparing to present it at an emergency council session. The council will bury this, Vath predicted darkly. They've ignored our suffering for generations. This will be no different. Admiral Stone's expression hardened. Perhaps in the past, but the Earth Federation is formally requesting full membership in the Astronomical Council, effective immediately. And we're sponsoring the Xerion Alliance for full membership as well. Lyra exchanged a startled glance with Voth. Admiral, while we appreciate the gesture, the Council has rejected our applications for centuries. What makes you think they'll accept either of us now? Because, Stone replied with a cold smile, we've just demonstrated technology that their military analysts are currently losing sleep over. And because we've informed them that we've established a permanent defensive presence in the Xerion sector, with or without their approval. You're threatening the Council? Vath asked, mandibles twitching in astonishment. Incentivizing them, corrected Stone. The Council understands power. Now they understand that ignoring the peripheral worlds is no longer without consequence. 3 weeks later, Ambassador Lyra once again stood in the Grand Chamber of the Astronomical Council. But this time, everything was different. Beside her stood Commander Voth, his exoskeleton repaired and polished for the occasion, and Admiral Stone, resplendent in a formal Earth Federation uniform adorned with subtle indications of her rank and achievements. The chamber buzzed with tension as Councillor Zareth called the session to order. Several council seats had been vacated following the revelation of their occupants' connections to the Black Blood Riders, and the remaining members projected an air of forced cordiality. This special session of the Astronomical Council will now address the applications for full membership from the Earth Federation and the Xerion Alliance, announced Zareth, his metallic voice carefully modulated to betray no emotion. The Council has reviewed the documentation provided and is prepared to vote. Lyra stepped forward, her tendrils fully extended in the formal posture of her species. Before the vote, I wish to address the Council. The chair recognizes Ambassador Lyra, Zareth acknowledged. Esteemed members of the Council, Lyra began, her voice clear and unwavering. For centuries, the Xerion Alliance has existed on the periphery of galactic society, our contributions overlooked, our security concerns dismissed. We accepted this arrangement because we believed in the ideal of a united galaxy, even if the reality fell short. She paused, her amber eyes scanning the assembled delegates. Recent events have demonstrated the cost of this imbalance. 3 worlds reduced to ash, billions of lives extinguished. And for what? Corporate profit margins, weapons testing, the casual cruelty of the powerful toward those deemed expendable. Murmurs rippled through the chamber, but Lyra continued undeterred. The Earth Federation came to our aid when this council would not. They risked their lives and resources for people they had never met, acting on a principle this body has long forgotten, that the strong have a responsibility to protect the vulnerable. Admiral Stone stood at perfect attention beside her, her posture conveying both strength and restraint. Today, we stand before you not as supplicants, but as equals. Lyra declared, the Xerion Alliance and the Earth Federation propose a new framework for galactic governance, one where security and prosperity are not hoarded by the few, but extended to all, where strength and compassion walk hand in hand. She activated a holographic display, showing the proposed restructuring of council representation and defensive responsibilities. We call it the Mutual Protection Accord, Lyra explained. Full council membership for all signatories, regardless of economic output or military capability, shared defense obligations, technology exchange programs, open borders for refugees and humanitarian aid. The council chamber erupted in overlapping voices as delegates argued amongst themselves. Councillor Delphine of the Aquarians raised her webbed hand for attention. While these ideals sound admirable, she said, her voice bubbling through her water environment, the practical realities of implementing such sweeping changes would be challenging. The economic disruption alone would be significant, interrupted Admiral Stone, speaking for the first time, as would the cost of another incident like the Black Blood Riders. Our analysis suggests at least 17 separatist groups and mercenary fleets currently operating with tacit council non-interference. How many more worlds will burn while this body debates economic convenience? The Sylphi representative's form shimmered with agitation. Is that a threat, Admiral? An observation. Stone replied calmly. The Earth Federation has established a defensive perimeter around the Zirion sector. We will maintain it regardless of the outcome of today's vote. We would prefer to do so as council members, working within the established framework of galactic law, but we will do so, either way. Silence fell over the chamber as the implications sank in. Perhaps, ventured a representative from a previously quiet delegation, there is room for compromise. A phased implementation of the proposed accord, beginning with full membership for both applicants and the establishment of a committee to develop the details of the broader proposals. Gradually, a consensus began to form. The Council, faced with the undeniable power of the Deathworlders and the moral authority of the Zirion Alliance, found itself adapting to a new reality, one where the galaxy's periphery could no longer be ignored. Hours later, as the formal votes were tallied and recorded, Lyra stood with Voth and Stone at one of the station's viewports, watching the stars. It's just the beginning, Lyra said softly. Changing the Council's policies is one thing, changing centuries of entrenched attitudes is another. Change always begins somewhere, Stone replied. On Earth, we have a saying. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. It takes time, and it takes people willing to put their shoulders to the wheel. Vath's compound eyes reflected the starlight. What happens now? The Black Blood Riders may have been defeated, but there will be others. Now, said Stone with quiet determination, we rebuild. We establish joint defense protocols. We share technology and knowledge, and we prepare for the next challenge. Lyra extended a tendril, gently touching the viewport glass. Beyond it, Earth vessels moved in formation with Zirion ships, conducting joint exercises and repair operations. Different species, from different worlds, working together toward a common purpose. Strength and compassion, she murmured, echoing her words to the Council. Walking hand in hand. That, agreed Admiral Stone, is the true power of Deathworlders, not our physical adaptations or our technology, but our understanding that survival means nothing if we survive alone. As the stars wheeled slowly overhead, the three stood in companionable silence, watching the beginning of a new era. In the vastness of space, ships from once distant worlds moved together in harmony, their lights blending into constellations of their own making, a new map for a changed galaxy. In the weeks and months that followed, the Zirion Alliance transformed. With Earth Federation assistance, planetary defenses were upgraded, communication systems enhanced, and trade routes secured. The populations that had lived in fear for generations began to flourish, their creativity and innovation unleashed by the promise of security. Lyra found herself appointed as the first Zirion High Ambassador to the Council, a position that required her to divide her time between the Alliance worlds and the Orion Station. In her absence, Commander Voth oversaw the implementation of joint defense protocols, working closely with Earth military advisors to train a new generation of Zirion officers. The Astronomical Council, for its part, underwent painful but necessary reforms. Corporations found to have connections to the Black Blood Riders faced severe sanctions, their representatives barred from council positions. New transparency measures were introduced, requiring full disclosure of military deployments and weapons development programs. Not all welcomed these changes. Several of the more powerful council members reduced their participation in protest, threatening economic embargoes against worlds that supported the reforms. But the alliance between Earth and Zirion held firm, their combined resources providing alternatives for threatened worlds. Admiral Stone, now serving as Earth's permanent representative to the Council, became known for her unflinching advocacy for peripheral worlds. When a natural disaster struck a non-aligned system beyond Council space, It was Earth and Xerion ships that arrived first with aid, demonstrating in action the principles they championed in policy. One evening, nearly a standard year after the Battle of Morrigan Belt, Lyra stood in her quarters on Orion Station, preparing for yet another council session. A small plant from Earth, a gift from Admiral Stone, bloomed on her desk. Its resilience in the artificial environment, a daily reminder of adaptation and perseverance. A communication alert sounded, and Commander Voth's image appeared on her screen. "Ambassador," he greeted her, mandibles clicking in what she now recognized as pleased excitement. "The Joint Patrol detected something unusual at the edge of the system. I thought you should see it immediately." The screen split, showing sensor readings from a Xerion Earth patrol vessel. At first, Lyra couldn't identify what had caused Vath's excitement. Then she saw it. Tiny green sprouts emerging from the wreckage of a black Blood Rider ship, still floating among the asteroids of the Morrigan Belt. "Life," she whispered, tendrils swaying in wonder. "Growing from destruction." Earth botanists confirmed they're a mutation of standard hydroponic crops from the Rider ship's supply systems. Vath explained. "Somehow they've adapted to survive in vacuum, drawing energy from solar radiation and nutrients from the asteroid minerals." Lyra studied the image, her scientist's mind already considering the implications. A new form of life, born from the confluence of conflict and cooperation. There's poetry in that, Commander. Admiral Stone suggested we name the species. Vath added. "She thought you should have the honor." Lyra considered for a moment, watching the delicate green filaments reaching toward the distant sun. "Concordia Resilience," she decided. "Resilient harmony." As she prepared to face the council again, to continue the long work of transformation, Lyra carried the image with her, new life emerging from the remnants of conflict, adapting and flourishing against impossible odds. It was, she reflected, the perfect emblem for the new era they were building, one day at a time, one world at a time. Strength and compassion, walking hand in hand across the stars.